Hello, Alan. Hello, how are you?
Very good. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, how are you doing? It's so much honor and privilege to interview you, and thank you for participating in my research.
Yes. Where are you?
I'm in China right now. I'm in Beijing.
Oh, okay. Very good. I'm in Paris.
Oh, good. So it's your early morning, right? Is that
Yeah, it's 9 o'clock. Yeah.
at 9 o'clock? That's good. Good. Thank you. And I'm so glad to reach out to get connected with you and also find that you are the pioneer for the MCC in SAF. You got about 24 years experience with SAF?
Yes, it was in 2022 that I got my in 2002, 2002 that I got my MCC. So it's 20 almost 24 years.
Oh. And it's so great honor. And I just checked that I think it's in 1998, SAF started to certify the first master coach. And SAF started from 1995. And you are really the group of
Yeah.
pioneers.
Well, in France, it started also, I would say, around 1995, where people were talking about coaching.
Yeah.
So I was not the first generation in France.
Mhm. Mhm.
But now I'm considered like one
Yeah.
of the old timers and first generation. I must say, there's other, sorry, there's other friends that went first. I know them well. We're, among the first.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I feel very resonated. And when I read that your profile and what your accomplishments, I am the OD and TD professional working on organizational development and talent development. So what
Mm.
you are working on are very related to each other in the same area. And thank you for
Yeah.
the contribution to my research.
It's my pleasure.
And also, and just want to get updated to you that the survey you participate right now showed very strong support to the hypothesis. Yeah, is that the MCC's presence is significant higher than the PCC's presence. And this is the first one. And the second significant finding is that the self-compassion directly related to presence, as the same as self-expansiveness. And
Yeah.
self-expansiveness act as a mediator between self-compassion to presence. So that's what the data showed us. And this interview is want to deep dive for more insights, your experience, and your practices, and to touch those concepts that we research on self-compassion, self-expansiveness, as well as presence. So, well, I'm very glad that we have the time.
I have a question. I have a
Yes,
question, if I may, or a request. Is
yeah,
it possible to have a copy of the
yes,
recording
sure.
that I could put on my YouTube feed? Because I put a lot of I share a lot of information on my
Yeah,
YouTube for
yeah,
people that are interested.
yeah.
I sort of have a free feed so people can. So if it's okay with you at the
Sure.
end to send me a copy.
Definitely. I'm recording this session now, so I can share with you the video recording of this interview as well
Yeah.
as the transcript. If in case you want the wording, the transcript that you want to put into your blog, your books, your articles for whatever use, since it's all
No, I don't.
contributed by you.
No, I don't really need the transcript because I mean,
Uh-huh.
probably it's all in my mind anyways. But the recording would be good just to give it to people.
Yeah. Yeah, I will give you the
Okay.
video recording and both audio if you need that as well. And right now, Zoom provide all those resources after the
Yeah,
session,
yeah,
after
yeah, yeah.
recording. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, great. Let's get started. And so first,
Yes.
I would like to learn from you your journey to becoming a master coach. And so the keywords we are talking about during this interview is about presence. How do you define presence? And your insights, please.
Well, how I describe it is really being present to my senses. In other words, it's well, obviously sight and sound. In other words, a lot is listening,
Mm-hmm.
um, with almost a musical sense in terms of listening. It's not necessarily listening to the words, but listening to what is coming through the tone and the music, the expression, the silences, and
Mm-hmm.
being present to that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, I would say, a mental listening or intellectual listening. Is much more of a musical type of listening.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, in other words, audition as a sense, I think, is much more linked to uh, getting a feeling of discrepancies and harmony, and listening for the harmony and where there may be discrepancies in the harmony, and trying to catch the other person's expression through the words, through the linguistics.
Okay, thank
And
you.
and then there's all the other senses, which is,
Mm-hmm.
sort of in an extended way of these senses. It's very sensory.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, in other words, I believe that the main skills in coaching are not intellectual skills or models. They're more sensory skills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. And I think you articulate that very well. Can you provide an example or provide more details about this sensory part you just mentioned?
Well, for instance, I'm quite aware of what I'm feeling in my body in a way, in
Mm-hmm.
my it's kind of organic. If I'm feeling tense or at ease or at
Mm-hmm.
peace, as I listen to the client, it's
Mm-hmm.
almost as if I was what a photographic plate in the sense of uh, uh, what silver photography before it became digital, where you catch things in communication, you feel
Mm-hmm.
things, and if you're aware of what you're feeling, uh, then you're feeling something that's comes from the communication. It's something that's between the client and me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very systemic in a way. In other words, it's like in a family. If there's a child that's very angry in a family
Mm-hmm.
and very much into anger, it's not an angry child. It's a child that's expressing the family's anger.
Oh.
Uh, the child is expressing something out of the system that the system is not expressing. Or
Mm-hmm.
if you have a depressed child, he's expressing the family's depression or
Mm-hmm.
something in the family linked to depression,
Mm-hmm.
because children are not depressive. So in communication, whatever happens within one person can
Mm-hmm.
be also perceived as happening between the people.
Mm.
Uh, so if I feel something, during a coaching or any relationship, I can assume that it belongs to the relationship. It belongs to both of us,
Mm-hmm.
especially if I'm not used to having that feeling. Of course, if I always have the same feeling, then I can say it's more part of me. But if with different clients, I have different emerging sensations.
Mm,
When I use the word feeling, I don't mean emotions, I mean
mhm.
sensations.
Sensations. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it could be in my throat, it could be in my breathing, it could be,
Mm-hmm.
you know, uh, being tense in my neck or having, lower pressure in my brain or something like this. And then I'll say, something about it. I'll tell the client, I'm feeling this on my side.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's just me. Don't worry about it. I just wonder what could be the relationship with your
Mm-hmm.
issue, with what you're talking about. And so it gives an avenue for the client to explore how that sensation or that feeling is linked to the situation. It could be in the client, it could be in the client's environment, it
Mm-hmm.
could be, significant. And most of the time, I find that it's quite relevant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. I think that you described the sensation and the somatic, the body part and the
Yeah,
embodied
yeah.
and the very specific with details. And also you mentioned the system. It's not just you and the coachee, the environment, the
Yeah,
relationship, and also the system. Would you like
yeah,
to
yeah.
talk more about the system? The angry child is not about the child, probably the family and other things. And can you provide more about that part?
Well, sure. I mean, before I was even a coach, I was
Mm-hmm.
in the field in a way as a consultant, as a trainer. So
Mm-hmm.
I've been in that kind of field since 1976. Okay.
Okay.
Uh, and when I came to coaching with a lot of systemic experience and knowledge
Mm-hmm.
and background.
Oh.
So from 2002, when I became a coach, the first experience meeting the ICF
Mm-hmm.
was when they asked me to deliver a keynote speech in a conference in Spain
Mm-hmm.
to 500 people on team coaching. And I
Oh.
told them I'm not a coach.
Uh-huh.
And they said, well, everybody says you're a very good team coach, so please come and tell us what you do. And at
Mm.
the time, a lot of people were saying team coaching doesn't even exist. I mean,
Yeah.
coaching was individual coaching. So I was bringing to coaching my previous experience working with teams and systems with
Yeah.
bosses
Mm-hmm.
rather than just individuals. And I was bringing to coaching that systemic frame of reference. Now it's becoming very popular. Everybody is becoming a team coach today. And the ICF, I think in 2020, uh, designed the team coach exam and
Mm-hmm.
certification. But for me, this is almost 20 years later.
Yeah.
And everybody now is becoming systemic, which I'm very
Uh-huh.
happy because I really believe that we are not islands. We're
Mm-hmm.
really, cultural people. We're affected by our families, by our environment, even today by our teams.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, if you coach somebody individually
Yeah.
and don't take into account their environment and your environment, because
Mm-hmm.
you chose each other in a way, so
Mm-hmm.
there's connections. You need to work on your environment, your client's environment, because you can't change part of a system if the system, rejects it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pressure from the environment that you don't change.
Mm-hmm.
They know who you are. They use you as you are. So if you're in a system and you change, well, the system may resist. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to deal with that. Take it into account when you coach anybody individually.
Mm-hmm. That uh specifically describe the dynamics between the coach and the coachee. And also, I'm glad that 20 years earlier you started to do team coaching and started to talk about team coaching, which shows more effective for people to transform, to change, and making the coaching session more effective in the working environment as well as in the organization.
Well, at that time, that was my main business. I mean, I was a
Uh-huh.
successful team developer.
Yeah.
I was doing a lot of teamwork. So I came to coaching with this. I would say, more of a collective team coach than an individual coach. That was my frame of reference.
Mm-hmm.
So, in a way, I got into individual coaching and things like this much more after I became a coach because that was the focus of the ICF.
Mm-hmm.
But my focus and my business was being a team coach.
Mm. Yeah, and also you remind me that what I learned from your profile, you have the education background for psychology, right? You started with that, then working with organizations, teaming and
Well,
training coaching.
my education was more anthropologist.
Ah,
In other words, studying cultures and
people.
cultural differences.
Yeah.
I was born in Algeria, raised in Egypt in a French family, went to an American school,
Oh.
learned Arabic in the streets, and also learned to read and write Arabic. So I was
Uh-huh.
between different cultures before I
Yeah.
was 10. So
Ah.
I had that concern,
Mm-hmm.
which was, cultural. And that, as a consequence, I think when I went to
Mm-hmm.
college, I got into cultural anthropology.
Yeah.
I also did some psychological work and went through therapy and,
Yeah.
working on myself.
Mm-hmm.
But my education was psychology, political geography, sociology, philosophy, also comparative religions, uh,
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of concerns about groups and cultures and people
Yeah.
from my mid-Mediterranean and mid-Atlantic kind of
Uh-huh.
background.
Yeah, thank you for introducing that part. I think that every piece get connected. You know people, you know the culture, your exposure to different culture. I think automatically build the awareness. And you are born, you are growing with that. So you are very
Yeah,
sensitive to people, their culture, how they react to each other, anthropology, and how people to build the relationship, the system. I think that all helps. That all help you to build your sensory
yeah.
awareness to what is
Well,
happening in the field.
in a way, there's a subtlety because actually, more than focusing on different cultures, I try to target what's beyond culture. In other words, what's common to everybody, no matter the culture. It's as
Mm-hmm.
if cultural differences are superficial,
Mm-hmm.
but we have a common base, a
Mm.
humanity base beyond.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what I'm interested in, as if, culture is skin deep, but what's behind the culture, what's
Mm-hmm.
beyond that makes us all similar in a way. And that's why, I think I focus on sensory
Mm-hmm.
dimensions more than models.
Mm, sure.
For instance, I think in coaching in the ICF, there's too much focus on models that are cultural.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's intellectual. So very often, when I listen to a model, I think, well, how would an Aborigine in Australia react to that model? How would an Eskimo
Uh-huh.
react to that model? And obviously, he would laugh and say, "Oh, you're Occidental."
Uh-huh.
So all the coaching models and tools
Mm-hmm.
and so on that are 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 culturally biased.
Mm.
And also the same thing with emotional. We're trained by our families and our cultures to show emotions and not others, and be in some emotions and not others. There's, there's a cultural bias on emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so what's beyond the emotions? Before the emotion is sensory.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, in any culture, if you put your hand over a fire, it'll burn. There's something common to humanity,
Yeah.
and I could say even animals. If we are in our sensory dimension, uh, we're closer to nature in a way. We're closer to fundamental dimensions that go across all cultures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's what I try to focus on. That's where I try to be when I'm coaching. And
Thank you.
even in my life, really is
Yes.
it becomes a way of being.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for mentioning that. I think that's the key intention and the starting point for my research is comparing the ICF certified PCC and MCC. I think those
Hmm.
models are useful, especially for the starter, the new beginners, and to
Oh
pursue the
yeah.
professional
Well,
skill.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I agree.
then
I mean,
after that,
a beginner coaches in a culture, so he
yeah,
has to be in that culture.
yes,
But he
yes,
may think it's universal, and that
yeah,
becomes the limit.
yeah,
If you become an international coach or a
mm-hmm,
master coach,
yeah,
even in the same culture, it's good to go beyond and see how to
yeah,
touch the person more deeply beyond the culture, beyond the emotions,
yeah,
and beyond the action. A lot of
yeah.
coaching is action oriented action,
Mm-hmm.
action plan and this. And there's a kind of, I would say, even Westerner
Mm-hmm.
obsession with action and
Mm-hmm.
results and materialism and blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. Which is okay if you're
Yes.
working with somebody
Mm-hmm.
that is really concerned with that and wants to
Mm-hmm.
get results.
Yeah.
But if you go beyond and see what's underneath all this, what's before
Mm-hmm.
all this,
Yeah.
you can
True.
get to deeper motivations
Mm-hmm.
and deeper purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's, beyond culture in a way.
Yeah, and also that's what you mentioned about the being, and is above and beyond those behaviors, is behind the fundamental part. That's probably is one of the area I want to explore about the difference between MCC and PCC. PCC
Mhm.
is very good at the skills and those models and those frameworks, and
Mm.
MCC touches more on that. You build on those skills and to touch the humanity as you talked, and those
Mhm.
the deepen part, the
Yeah, yeah,
fundamental
yeah,
part, and beyond
yeah,
the culture as a human being to connect to the universe. I think
yeah.
that's what we explore, and by those concepts, self-compassion and self-expansiveness, because we are so close to the nature, and for the academic research that I'm working on is transpersonal psychology. It's beyond our people-to-people relationships.
Yeah,
That's
yes, yes, yes.
more connect to the world, to the nature, to the universe that we all live on. And so, thank you for mentioning that. And I'm
Well,
glad
I
that,
think, I think it's actually more connected to yourself.
yeah,
I mean, your deeper self. When I was an assessor for the ICF for
yeah,
about 10 years.
mm-hmm,
And for me, it was really very, obvious. If you were assessing an ACC, you could almost tell what school they came from. If you
mm-hmm,
were assessing a PCC, you knew what country he came from, what culture. And
uh-huh,
if you were assessing an MCC, it was almost no matter the culture, he was an MCC.
uh-huh,
You know,
universal,
uh,
right?
an MCC is of an intercultural human nature,
Uh-huh.
where BCC is obviously from a certain kind of frame of reference that's cultural.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
In ACC, you can see he's demonstrating his school's,
Uh-huh.
skills. He's learning the basics.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very different levels. Yeah.
Thank you. That's a good metaphor to understand the
Yeah.
progressive stage and the maturity from ACC, PCC to MCC. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. And then I would like to learn more from you on the concept that my study focused. One of them is the compassion and the self-compassion. So
Well,
regarding that, how does compassion influence your interactions with the clients and to yourself? How do you practice self-compassion as a coach?
well, I mean, I'm going to repeat myself if I'm really into my sensory
Mm-hmm.
presence while listening, to the client and catching what's going on beneath the words, beyond the words, and so on. You obviously start touching the human dimension.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and when I say touching, it's the physical dimension
Mm-hmm.
that is not, it's beyond touching.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, it's like somebody will say, what you just did touches me deeply, or what you said touches me deeply, or
The
like we're
heart.
touched by an opera singer, or a violin player or something
Uh-huh.
like that. And then we're deeply touched. And that for me is the avenue for compassion. Um,
Oh.
it's a sensory avenue. It's not
Mm-hmm.
it's beyond emotional.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, if I listen to any kind of music worldwide,
Mm-hmm.
I'm touched by what the music conveys, even if
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard it before. I could be touched by I don't know, Australian didgeridoo and
Uh-huh.
start going in all kinds of different dimensions, thanks to the vibrations coming from the music.
Uh-huh.
Um, and that is of the same dimension, I would say, as compassion.
Mm-hmm.
You get touched by the vibrations that come
Mm-hmm.
uh, from what the other person is expressing or feeling or demonstrating, that is from their deeper core.
Mm.
Um, so that is obviously for me also intercultural. It's metacultural. It's beyond culture.
Beyond culture.
And we could say it also belongs to the animal world. It also
Mm-hmm.
belongs to the living world,
Mm-hmm.
maybe even the mineral world, where we're touched by vibration.
Yeah, I think that's a beautifully said and beautiful. It's a good metaphor. You mentioned the music, and quite sometimes I think that's a good metaphor to really understand what you are trying to expressing on the compassion, on the relationship between a coach and the coachee, and how the impact to us, and that's great.
Mhm.
And from personal perspective, how does self-compassion mean to you? Uh, do you have any practice or any experience on self-compassion to yourself?
Well, it's awareness of what's happening in me. In
Mm-hmm.
other words, it's really listening to my deeper energy and
Uh-huh.
being with that deeper energy. So what are the methods? I don't know. I've done a lot of different types of work on myself, and
Yeah.
both physical and psychological. But I
Mm-hmm.
think the physical dimension is important, like breathing exercises, yoga,
Mm-hmm.
meditation, even walking meditation,
Yeah.
going on long walks in nature.
Mm-hmm.
and following your rhythm and being present.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, I would say walking is meditation because
Mm-hmm.
when I walk, we did lots of long pilgrimages with my wife. We walked
Uh-huh.
2,000 kilometers from
Wow.
Paris to the Atlantic
Mm-hmm.
in Spain. It's the Compostela
Uh-huh.
uh, pilgrimage. Uh, well, it's you get in a rhythm, you get in a breathing rhythm, it becomes really internal, very personal.
Mm-hmm.
It's solitary work. Even if you're with somebody, you end up walking at your own pace.
Mm-hmm.
So my wife would call me and say, "I can't see you.
Uh-huh.
You wait for me," because
Uh-huh.
we did this whole trip together, but
Yeah.
most of the time we were in our personal rhythm. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
you know. So I mean, self-compassion for me is the same. It's almost the avenue to, you need to first explore to
Mm-hmm.
have compassion with others, with animals, with plants, with nature, etc.
Uh-huh.
It needs, it starts inside,
Mm-hmm.
or it happens at the same time. The
Mm-hmm.
two develop together.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Great. I think that connected to the other concept we're talking about the self-expansiveness. When we talk about self-expansiveness, it's not only ourselves in the body
yeah,
and in the skin, and it's
yeah,
about the animals you were around, what's the nature
yeah,
and the connectedness. I think that you
yeah.
get things connected beautifully and self-compassion. You connect yourself with the animals, with the
Yeah,
nature, with the environment, everything.
yeah. Well, it goes back to, a systemic awareness. In other
Yeah.
words, it's not inside. It's like they say now in quantum physics, there's no
Uh-huh.
outside out there anyways. It's all
Yeah.
in you. Or there's no inside anyways. You're part of the whole. The two are the same, basically. It's completely, in a way, an illusion to think that what's inside is different from outside. Now psychologists talk about transference,
Mm-hmm.
whatever,
Uh-huh.
encounter transference. There's
Uh-huh.
different concepts on this, but
Uh-huh.
basically, I mean, we're all connected. We're all one.
Yeah, yeah,
So
exactly. Oneness. I'm just want to say it's all oneness. We are
yeah.
part of the world, and the world includes us as one of the part. Like Rumi said that we are the job in the whole ocean, and we are not a drop of the water, and but we are the ocean in the job. And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I
yeah,
think that we're
yeah,
talking about the same thing,
exactly.
right? Uh-huh.
That's a very nice picture. I know that picture. I mean that metaphor.
Uh-huh.
Are you the drop in the ocean, or are you the ocean in the drop?
Yeah, we are the ocean in the round, and then
Yeah.
not just the water and of the
Mm.
ocean. Yeah, thank you. And when we extend this to self-expansiveness, and how do you view the concept of self-expansiveness? We just talk a little bit to your personal and professional life. That's to your and during the coaching session, how does the self-expansiveness contribute to the way that you show up in the coaching relationship between you and the coachee, or you and the team that you are coaching?
Well, it just happens when it's appropriate or when it emerges. I don't have, an intention there.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes, once I remembered a client who was talking about, his feelings when he was laying in the grass and looking up at the stars at night and feeling this small compared to the universe and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. And I said something very similar, when you're lying there
Mm-hmm.
looking at those stars, are you looking outside or are you looking inside?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he just fell silent. And then he started laughing, and I started laughing too. It was like sort of a breakthrough for both of us. I don't even know, what made me say it. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have any intention there. It was just a reaction. And in a way, just after that, in my mind, is like, who said this? It's like you're channeling, but it just happens
Uh-huh.
uh, in a way when I'm, really into it and the client really opens up to some of the deeper things, I can accompany it. And,
Mm-hmm.
and it becomes, in a way, a form of spiritual coaching or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
it could be in a psychological discussion or on a professional discussion. It just I've been through so much of this over the years that I have the synapses for it. It just happens.
Mm-hmm. It
Yeah,
just happens. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
So you feel that you are
yeah,
together with the environment and
yeah.
it's inner, it's instead of outer and physically, right?
Well, when it happens, sometimes I do very technical coaching
Yeah,
on an
sure.
action.
Uh-huh.
It depends on the clients and the situation and our relationship, our connection. Sometimes our connection takes us there almost automatically.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I mean, once I was coaching a CEO lady that was a
Mm-hmm.
country manager for a big, big company. And half of our coaching sessions were really on spiritual dimensions because she
Uh-huh.
really had it. She was a very, engaged religiously,
Mm-hmm.
a Christian Orthodox from Eastern Europe, and we had a lot of connection
Yeah.
on that level. So it would
Mm-hmm.
happen
Mm-hmm.
during our coaching. It was normal.
Yeah.
No, it was a professional coaching
Sure.
paid by the company and so on. But we would normally glide in and out of these dimensions,
Yeah.
which she had in her work. She,
Mm-hmm.
she, was really connected and did things very well. So yeah, when it emerges, we go there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it really depends on, and people are different from each other, and some people
Yeah, yeah,
are very close that to that part in their conscious level, and some people are more close to the physical world and to the daily
yeah,
things, and it really
yeah,
depends on. And what we are trying to explore is the conscious, like a spectrum. And some people
yeah,
in this part and some people are extended. We are trying to
yeah,
explore together with the extended part and
yeah.
how that related to each other and
Yeah,
from
yeah,
alternative conscious. Yes.
yeah, yeah. But it's important not to have an intention to take
No,
them there or take them there.
no.
Is just go with the flow and accompany them where they need to go.
Yeah, yeah. And regarding to that part, do you see any specific impact and the self-expansive part that make to your coaching and impact or influence to your coachee?
Well, I don't understand the question.
And the impact and for the
Oh,
expensive.
well, yeah, obviously, I mean, there's an impact because very often the client cannot talk about these dimensions or share these dimensions with
Uh-huh.
everybody around.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a space where, we can both open up to this and share, and that consolidates
Mm-hmm.
for them and for me the reality of those dimensions. So
Mm-hmm.
it has an impact. Uh, I would say much larger impact if you just stay materialist or just stay
Mm-hmm.
psychological. That's kind of limited thinking. If you're addressing the whole person,
Yeah.
there's much more strength in what they do. There's much more purpose in what they do. So for me, it obviously has an impact. It's also the kind of clients with whom I feel I do the best work.
Mm-hmm.
There's much more purpose. That's the kind of client I like to attract, work with. And usually we continue having a long-term coaching relationship
Yeah.
over the years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one client I've been following for 25 years. Uh, we see each other two, three, four times a year, and
Uh-huh.
and just touch base on some of the fundamental, underlying rhythms in his work. Um, Also dealing with, strategy and so on and so forth,
Mm-hmm.
but there is this foundation.
Mm-hmm.
It's a common foundation. They know it, I know it, and so that's our foundation.
Great, thank you. I think that help understand more about the impact and how that support what you touch base, even is for the strategy part, the business part, and how the foundation will help and to build that. Thanks. And when we do this research, that's mainly to touch the development piece of coach from PCC to MCC and to more masterful pieces. So regarding the personal development, what personal development activities or practices that you had made to bring your coaching presence more effective, and how do
Mm.
you continue to develop yourself along the journey? Can you share that part?
Yeah, sure. I mean, since I was very young, well, even as a teenager, I used to
Mm-hmm.
do a lot of what diving, snorkeling diving,
Uh-huh.
where you hold your breath and you dive
Yeah.
down and go back up, and that is actually hyperventilation and holding your breath and so on. And I
Oh.
used to do this. I used to go, I don't know, 30 meters underwater. I used to really dive a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got very early. Also, my mother used to do some yoga, and sometimes I would join her
Mm-hmm.
and do some meditation and so on
Mm-hmm.
as a teenager. And then when I got older in the 20s, well, I continued on these activities, but rather lightly. Then I went into personal development group work, group therapy with transaction analysis. That was in the late 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Then I got, at the time, after that, actually, I got into Jungian psychology as a client, dream analysis over 6 years, at least 6 years,
Mm-hmm.
with a man.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was done with that, I started another kind of body work therapy with a woman. It's more Reichian type of with Rolfing called postural integration. It's deep tissue work.
Mm-hmm.
And I discovered, you could do a therapy with a man, and Jungian is very sort of vertical type of
Yeah.
therapy. Body work is much more in the flesh. And with a woman, it's a very different. So it's almost like I started all over, a different therapy.
Uh-huh.
Um, I also discovered that if I did it in English, which is a later language, I would not be able to access earlier things in my French background because I'm born French natural.
Uh-huh.
And so if you do a therapy in a different language, you access some things, but you don't access others. If you do it in your mother tongue, you go
Uh-huh.
much deeper. Um,
Oh.
and then I did some transpersonal work, which is more like Stanislas Grof,
Mm-hmm.
uh, through, holotropic
The breathing
breathing and
work.
all that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, breathing work. Now, I did some, during that time, I also did some breathing work with a kind of yoga
Mm-hmm.
kind of Middle Eastern yoga, Sufi work from Middle Eastern
Mm-hmm.
tradition.
Mm-hmm.
I also did a lot of yoga, and now I continue with yoga. It's
Mm-hmm.
useful for my, old age. And I did transcendental meditation for years
Mm-hmm.
also.
Mm-hmm.
That was through an Indian tradition. So I've been exploring in all of these things for, at least until the 50s very intensely.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the 50s, I said, okay, let's stop this.
Uh-huh.
So I'm not doing it as intensely as
Uh-huh.
I did during the 20 years between 30 and 50. Uh, but now there's more, physical and yoga work,
Mm-hmm.
which I need because of my age. I'm getting
Mm-hmm.
rusty and I have joint issues and muscular issues
Yeah.
and nervous issues and balance issues. So just to really be able to continue on that, I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing a lot of yoga and muscle rebuilding on the muscles I'm losing. I'm 76, okay, so there's a lot of muscle that's disappearing, and
Yeah.
and
Naturally
you
to
have
age.
to
Yeah.
you have to watch how your body's aging.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm refocusing on some physical issues, which
Mm-hmm.
is, I think, very interesting because it also develops my sensory perceptions,
Oh.
my awareness of muscles I didn't even know existed,
Uh-huh.
and internal workings. I'm discovering parts of my body I didn't even know were there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's more recent, beyond psychological, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in a way, when you're younger, you work on the psychosomatic, but really focus on the psycho.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, at my age, it's more like the somato-psychic. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
in other words, the physical dimension that's linked to the psychological.
Yeah.
Um,
Great. And I hear a lot of it started from yoga and right now focus yoga and the physical part, somatic part to psychological part as well. I think that you explored a lot various kind of therapy. Among all those parts, is there anything that you find the most impactful and to yourself, or it's just in the flow, different age, different stage, you pick different ones that resonates and you feel more valuable to you. So when you
well,
see back, how?
yeah, I have difficulty with that because they each bring a different, you
Uh-huh.
know, dimension.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but in a way, like I said, it's good to work with a man and good to work with a woman because
Yeah.
it's very different. I started with men because it's easier. I'm a guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I would suggest women start with women. It's
Yeah.
easier.
Yeah.
But then you need to face the guy. I need to
Yeah.
face the woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
now, one thing in coaching is I hear a lot of schools say you have to do your therapy to become a coach. I never did any therapy because I had to. I did it because I wanted to. It was for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe you can prescribe therapy to people and say, you want to come in this school, you have to do your therapy. It's almost counterproductive.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do a therapy for an ulterior motive. You want to
Yeah.
come in my company, you do therapy. You want to, get married, you need to do your therapy. It's sort of counterproductive. I did it for myself. I did it to explore myself, and it was an
Mm-hmm.
ongoing thing for years and years and years.
Mm-hmm.
And, in my family, they say, well, why do you do all this therapy? What? My mother asked me, what do you talk about in therapy? And
Uh-huh.
I told her, Mom, I talk about you. Who do you want me to
Uh-huh.
talk about?
Yeah. Good, good, good. Always good for
So,
you. On your personal
but
development.
But you need to do it for yourself. I mean,
Yes.
it's really the frontier of the unknown
Yeah.
is much more internal than
Mm-hmm.
it is external.
Yeah.
Why go explore the moon if you haven't explored yourself, you know? So in a way, that was, my motivation. Now to say which one is the best, I think it depends on different people.
Yeah.
Where to start is very different.
Mm-hmm.
Start where it's the most accessible,
Yes.
So intellectuals, okay, get intellectual
Yeah.
things. Dreamers do some dream work,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But then continue with, complementary approaches
Yeah.
because it'll always give you a different angle.
Mm-hmm. And you will know, your body will know, and what works for you and what you need. I think that's
Yeah,
a good hint as well.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And when we look at your coaching experience, and can you describe the perceived peak experience in your coaching sessions that you find is more very present when you are engaged with your client? Can you share one of those experience and also from those experience that what you learned from your coachee about the presence, compassion, self-compassion, and self-expansiveness, those concepts we just talked about?
Well, I think in a way I did. For instance, I don't know, saying to this guy who's talking about the stars and so on,
Ah,
it
yes.
almost shocked me as much as them, and it stayed with me for a while. And
Mm-hmm.
and I have a very good connection with that. Now, with some other clients, I don't know. I may be walking in the street one day and think about them and have a feeling, so I'll text
Uh-huh.
them and say, I don't know why, but I'm having this feeling.
Uh-huh.
And in one case, the guy called me, an hour later and said,
Uh-huh.
exactly when you called, this was happening to me,
Ah.
etc. So it's like a telepathic connection,
Mm-hmm.
and so it got me thinking on, when I feel different things, how do I react? How do I input? How do I come? Because I accompany my clients in a way all the time,
Uh-huh.
even when they're not there. I may get something, and then I'll call them or text them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, with that woman I was talking about, where I really discovered other dimensions and worked with her on the spiritual dimension and her
Mm-hmm.
religion
Yes.
and so on. It got me more and more into saying, okay, that's part of me. It's part of my clients,
Yeah.
each time, in a way, the clients open. You don't work on with clients or on clients in a way. You
Mm-hmm.
work with yourself.
Yeah.
With clients, it's both inside and outside. Recently, I had, for instance, a supervision group with 7 coaches. One's from Canada, one's from Belgium, one's from Italy.
Mm-hmm.
One is actually from the Indian Ocean origin. She's raised in France, but of a mixed background of, different racial mix in parents. So it was a very intercultural group in a way,
Mm.
and still French. And as we were, it was a marathon for 3 days, but the more we worked for 3 days, the more I was aware that the common point between all these people is me. So they came to work on something that concerned me, and they
Oh.
were interconnected. So it's almost
Mm-hmm.
like constellation work
Yes.
uh, where actually I was, progressing as much as they were on all their issues. While they worked on their issues, I would accompany them with me in what I was feeling. And it was very, very intense and powerful. And so I do that once in a while. But
Uh-huh.
in a way, I feel I should be paying them for for the work they're paying me.
Uh-huh.
But it's really a common development environment.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shared environment.
Mm-hmm. I think that you and your coaches, people working together, are gifts to each other, and you're nourishing and inspire each other to find that the beautiful
Yeah,
moments and being present
yeah.
and find the benefits each other.
Yeah,
And
and for me,
yes,
there are almost always what we would say is a peak experience because
hmm,
it stays. Sometimes I start writing about it just to
yeah,
clarify it.
mm-hmm,
It's kind of like journaling
yes,
after an experience to
mm-hmm,
really anchor it and see what's behind it.
mm-hmm,
So it stays with me, and yeah, I do a lot of writing.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know if you know, but I wrote about 25 books,
mm,
and
oh.
you know, a lot of them are in English on Amazon if you're interested.
Uh-huh. I will check that. I'm very curious, and I'm very interested in exploring the topics and those stories that you are sharing in your book. Thank you.
Yeah.
And before we close this session, I would also like to learn from you that when you're talking about coaching, and what's your vision and what's the legacy that you want to leave to the world by doing the work of coaching?
Well, yeah, okay. Like I said, I do write a lot. There's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
my on my website. I've got 25 books.
Yeah.
About almost 10 of them are since 2015 on,
Mm-hmm.
the legacy of systemic coaching and a lot of them are actually books for my students and the coaches that want to learn my type of systemic work.
Uh-huh.
So there is, in Western Europe, I mean, I have a reputation. People who are looking into systemic coaching
Yes.
consider me one of the, leading thinkers and
Mm-hmm.
practitioners in systemic coaching.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say there's definitely a legacy
Mm-hmm.
um, and a sort of community. In other words, they kind of know each other, they can find each other, they recognize each other. There's a
Mm-hmm.
kind of school of thought, a kind of school, you know, a systemic coaching culture, which is my way.
Yeah.
Um, Now it's not defined. I don't have, a club of with systemic coaches or whatever, but we're kind of connected in a way, and they pop up once in a while
Yeah.
and call me back, and
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah, thank you. I think your books, the 25 books, is the legacy and also it's very live, the community and the people that share each other and your intervention, your influence continues sharing
yeah,
wisdom will make it very live and continue. And
yeah,
this journey
yeah,
and systematic coaching is really very impactful. Thank you for sharing
yeah,
all of that. And Alan,
yeah, yeah.
before we
Welcome.
close the session, anything that you would like to add? We did not touch it regarding the coaching, the self-expansiveness, compassion, as well as presence, especially for the master coaches and how that we can share to the coaches that are on the way to develop them and to like master coaches or in your being in your status that what's your advice or anything that you would like to wrap up this session.
Well, I don't think there's, I mean, I could go on and talk for for a long time. As a matter of fact, at my age, I'm sort of perceived, as a sort of grandfather or dinosaur or something like this.
Uh-huh.
And I'm regularly called to deliver conferences here and there for
Uh-huh.
the ICF and other
Yeah.
places, which is not, I for the ICF, I do it free, which is a way of, touching younger coaches
Uh-huh.
and it's a time at my age where you're there, you're supposed to be there like an old fogey or something, and they call you to talk about your experience in a way like you're interviewing now.
Uh-huh.
And it's our role. It's our role, like,
Mm-hmm.
old trees to deliver to the younger trees.
Oh.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so that they get a chance to grow from whatever you've accumulated over the years.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and that's what we serve at our age. That's our purpose in a way, is
Mm-hmm.
to start giving back, and
Mm-hmm.
um, now I still feel that I'm exploring. My next book is, my next two books are getting
Yeah.
ready. So I'm still quite creative.
Mm-hmm.
When I thought, a long time ago, okay, after 60, after 70, you sort of, start coasting. I feel like I'm still pushing the boundaries
Yeah.
of systemic coaching, so I can still contribute new stuff, but I perceive that I'm often called to talk about the past.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not perceived. Well, it depends. People who know me know I'm still very creative.
Yeah.
But in the general public, I'm sort of like a grandfather, I'm sort of
Uh-huh.
pushed out.
Thank you. I think your metaphor, the old trees to nourish the young trees, is a good metaphor, and I like that. And looking forward to the new books that you are publishing for your next one and two and more, and to keep creative and expand the boundaries and bring more beautiful things and treasurable, valuable things to the world. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Alan. And I'm going to
Thank you.
send this video to you and figure out the way to send you the video. And looking forward that more people are benefited from your experience and sharing. Thank you again for your contribution to my research.
Thank
I'll
you.
definitely get you updated for the results of this research.
Thank you very much. Take
Thank
care.
you. Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.